like I said, as a kid, you're bound by this rules and framework that keeps everything, working. And then you become an adult, particularly if you became an adult when we did, and you start seeing these things happen where laws don't matter.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Blue Sedition podcast. I'm Nate Brady alongside
Mike Smith. Glad to be back, everybody. It's another week, another fun bit of news.
Fun?
I think it's Christmas come early for us, so I'm excited for this episode for a few reasons. But yeah, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, where do you want to start? How do you want to kick this off? I mean, we have the meat of the episode, and
we were just talking about some Biden stuff.
Okay,
so I want to start with that because
let's start with that.
That's a fun one. So, yeah, there you go. For anybody who's just listening and not watching, President Biden had commute most federal death sentences. 37 out of 40 people who were scheduled to be murdered by the government have been commuted. So the three carve-outs who weren't given the same pleasure, I'm not going to read their names, man.
You don't.
The Boston Marathon bombing guy, he killed 3 people.
Yeah.
Dylan Roof, who killed 9 in the South Carolina Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a mouthful. And then Robert Bowers, who killed 11 in the Pittsburgh Tree of Life synagogue shooting. So these three are not having their sentences commuted. And so, as a bit of background here, we know that in 2020, when then candidate Biden was running to become president, he pledged to end the federal death penalty, basically citing that as a man of God, he couldn't, go along with that in any good standing. Well, here we are with the power of looking back. Did he do that? Did he come through on that pledge?
No. Well, the fact that he has to commute these sentences, it means no. I'm guessing. I mean, I have a lot of questions about a lot of the promises that were made during this administration. But the answer to your question, I think, is no. I have a couple more questions, and I think that you had done some reading on this, so maybe you can answer them.
Sure.
Well, first off, why not all 40? Right.
So I was digging into that just prior to recording, and the answer is pretty simple, actually.
Okay.
He wanted to commute everyone, but he ostensibly was advised not to commute these 3 specifically because they technically committed and were found guilty of acts of terrorism.
Oh boy!
So those 2 carve-outs are his precedent for who should and should not be murdered by the state government or by the federal government.
That's interesting. So
the other names on the list that I was sort of going through it because it came up very recently is that they were like incidents where they had committed, malice acts of murder in most cases, and it was like they killed their wife because they thought it would be fun, and they're a little bit bonkers. But they're not terrorists, right? They killed somebody who was close to them and then went on a rampage, or they and they lived to tell a tale. So these are just people, and again, for anyone who's not familiar, their sentences have been commuted, but they still will serve life in prison without possibility of parole. So it's not like they're not being forgiven.
Yeah. So before we get too far from this, did you make the connection to this at all? You said the three that he didn't commute were all charged with some act of terrorism, right?
Yep.
And there's a case that's going to be starting pretty soon with a dude who was charged with an act of terrorism, killing as an act of terrorism.
Yes, Mr.
Luigi Mangione.
Yeah.
Boy, that's
an interesting thing, and I'll say that I think that to be highly, a unrelated event, because it isn't like he's setting a rule. He's not making precedent that there will be anything on the books written about. This is just his presidential stance on this on this act of commuting these sentences, and he's still. The funny thing is that he's still, talking about how he's anti-death penalty, but he didn't commute these three guys, which means that they still are scheduled to be executed by the state.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Feels like it's a little bit related.
It could be. It
Yeah.
might have been something like, I don't think that, I mean, he was going to do this commuting, I think, either way. And I think that from what I read, he was advised to not commute these three sentences. Three
Right. Well,
people of interest.
So
I think it's unrelated, but you never know.
Yeah, it feels related. I mean,
but talking about Luigi, there was a really good Legal Eagle video that came out this week.
Yes.
Or maybe last week, actually.
No, it was a couple days ago.
Oh, yeah, okay. I probably watched it over the weekend. And they were talking about why they would be going for, what was it, murder one and
murder as an act of terrorism
terrorism, as opposed to a murder two rap, which is pretty cut and dried since he was on camera doing it.
Yeah.
You should all go.
I mean, it's going to be pretty interesting, as he said, or the lawyer that he had on, who he was, interviewing, asking questions. He said, one of the main things is when you have an open and shut case like that, you keep it simple, stupid, right? We have kind of the same practice in tech, in programming, and now the state has, and the federal government has made it harder on themselves, right, to prove murder as an act of terrorism. So they're adding charges that are harder to prove. It's going to be a fascinating trial. I mean, I made a comment. We were watching Saturday Night Live the other night, and Weekend Update came on, and the first joke or whatever was about Luigi, and the crowd erupted in cheers during that first joke, and that's in New York City, by the way.
Yeah.
It's gonna be wild. It reminds me of, it has feelings of the O.J. Simpson trial, right?
Yeah, I think that it'll have. You're right. I mean, they're probably going to try and do as much televised versions of that as they can. They're definitely going to be running it on the news for the entire duration, and probably will be listening in to see what's going on. I'm sure that a lot of people are interested to see how this goes. And again, it should have been a really simple case. He's on video. He was caught with the weapon. He did it. Allegedly did it.
He did it,
and he has a manifesto saying he was going to do it. So I mean, I don't know how much easier you need for a slam case like that. And as it stands now, they have to prove that as an act of terrorism, he had premeditated, like, in an attempt to change the system through terror, like the healthcare industry or politicians,
right,
acting on healthcare through acts of terror, like through the. I don't see a clear line there, because it doesn't seem like his manifesto said anything about trying to change the system. It just was calling out how broken it is.
Right, and I think maybe I don't know. I don't know what line the defense is going to take. Whether they're gonna take this you got the wrong guy defense, or it's going to be,
he pled not guilty this morning.
Yeah, but I mean,
which is wild. I mean, he has to. That's the only defense you can try. But like, I thought they were going to try for a plea bargain or something.
Well, no. If you plead guilty, oh man, here's where my ignorance in the legal system is showing. But I mean, if you plead guilty, there's no jury trial, right? It just goes right to sentencing.
Right. Yeah, so, you would get presumably like lighter sentencing or something, or you could get them to like drop the charge from murder 2 and terrorism to murder 1 or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, again, we're not legal scholars here. Go find that elsewhere.
I don't know what I'm talking about with this crap. But I did want to play a video. Actually, man, we're getting this is great for my ADHD brain. We're going all over the place here. Before we leave the topic of death penalties and the federal government, I know the incoming terrorist of a president. He is really big on actually expanding capital punishment, and and this is something I feel like I've asked before, but I've never heard an answer that made any sense to me. So
Okay.
you mentioned Joe Biden commuting these sentences, because of his religious beliefs or whatever. Which, all right, fine, the bullshit, but fine. Um, and and then we have the pro-life crowd, but it seems like most of the pro-life crowd, or I shouldn't say pro-life because they're not pro-life. Most of the anti-abortion crowd is
Right.
for expanding capital punishment. Can you
Yes.
can you put that together for me?
I can, but you're not going to like it.
Okay.
The stance, while it feels on its face like it's a logical fallacy, it really isn't. There's a lot of like conditions that need to be met. So if you are a violent criminal who has taken a life, they believe that you should be put to death. And it seems on its face like that's an understandable thing to think. You may not agree with it, but you can at the very least understand that. And their other position is one of a child who is not yet born. We call them embryos or fetuses. Has not committed any act that is worthy of death. So they shouldn't be put to death in any way. So they find logical ways to reason about those two stances. And yeah, I'll hear all manners of people just taking the argument sort of sideways and saying, well, how can you be, a Christian or whatever if you are in favor of killing? And clearly says in the Bible, thou shalt not kill, and just ignoring all of that other stuff. Those two simple um, stances, I think, logically hold in most people's minds, depending on how your view of the death penalty is. And how your view of when a human is technically a living human. Now, I'm not going to get into that, but I think it's at birth, basically, is when you become a human. Before then, you are not.
Yeah.
Or maybe when you are viable to be born.
I'm not gonna,
Medical
I don't, all right. Yeah, I'm not gonna go down that road. A little bit more on Luigi Mangione. Thank you for that. I'm still not satisfied, as you can
You're
imagine.
not satisfied with that
No,
explanation?
no. Thanks. Emmy and the Desert Crow here shared this video that I just loved this, especially because the quip about Eric Adams in this. But I don't know if you've heard this, but I want to play this for our listeners.
And to have all of the press there, the media there, it was like perfectly choreographed. And what was the New York City mayor doing at this press conference, Your Honor? That just made it utterly political. And as Your Honor knows, under Lauro v. Charles, the Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit has held it to be clearly established that these staged perk walks to the media, unrelated to a legitimate law enforcement objective, is unconstitutional. And I submit there was zero law enforcement objective to do that sort of perp walk. There's absolutely no need for that whatsoever. And frankly, Your Honor, the mayor should know more than anyone of the presumption of innocence that he too is afforded when dealing with his own issues. And frankly, I submit that he was just trying to detract from those issues by making a spectacle of Mr. Mangione.
It's so weird to see him kind of like in the flesh right now too, just like reacting. I mean, this kid is a really bright kid, valedictorian, and just seeing him, I don't know. This is wild. I don't know.
I mean, this is like a little taste of what the court is going to see. She is well, I don't know exactly about her, but she's a storied legal mind and has recently turned to the defense of people in the legal sector. Again, the legal eagle covered that, and so she's apparently a force to be reckoned with, and she's going to be doing all of these things where she's, poking holes in tangential matters. This doesn't directly relate to the case, obviously, but she's, saying that my client was treated poorly in this way, and they violated the Constitution, and blah blah blah. And it's just fighting. It has nothing to do with the court case against him necessarily. It's not directly related. So you're going to see a bunch of that stuff.
Yeah, so she is Karen Agnafilo. I'm not sure how to say her last name. Somebody can correct me there. I guess she was the co-host of Legal AF on the Midas Touch Network but she's a former prosecutor, media analyst, and she seems like definitely seems like she knows what she's doing. So this is going to be interesting. I just didn't want to see somebody who's going to lay down.
Her out in this picture.
What's
is
that?
What he's doing? Is that a little side eye? Like
no. I think I think that's a bad pause.
Have
there,
all
I
of
think,
these.
his eyes were coming up as.
He's just listening.
He looked down and he was like this. Yeah.
I have a feeling he's you can see him looking at the paper that she put down. He's going to be very, very interested in probably being involved in the entire, in his defense. Like he seems like he's one of those types that'll be really hands-on on this.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't think I have a lot more to say on Luigi right now. I think we'll be following the trial closely.
Sure, you'll hear more about it from us in the future, but for now, I don't think we have much else to say.
Yeah.
So that rib against Eric Adams was funny.
Yeah. So the big news of the day, however, is definitely what we wanted to get to. What happened today? What happened this morning? You had to tell me. I had my head down and work, and you were like, "How could you be working at a time like this?" I said, "Time like what? What is this man talking about?"
Yeah.
What were you talking about?
The House Ethics Committee had basically voted. I'm going to give a little backstory here so that we're all on the same page.
Okay.
Had basically voted to not release the Matt Gaetz internal ethics probe findings document.
Sure.
And I don't remember if it was last Thursday or Friday. I think it was Thursday. I don't know how this happened, but maybe you have the information, Nate. Somebody somehow basically overruled that and said, no, we're going to release it. And so they were prepping it the rest of last week. And as of this morning, they were set to release it. Matt Gaetz was notified. He filed an emergency motion to stop the House Ethics Committee report from being released. Being Matt Gaetz, he didn't hire a lawyer to do it. He did it himself because he's a lawyer.
Oh.
And so the clerk in the Federal District Court of Washington posted a note on his file saying that he'd filed it improperly. He's supposed to submit his complaint and his request for a temporary restraining order separately, which he failed to do. So they released it.
So we got this.
By the House, we got this.
We got the
goods.
So what's it say? I mean, it seemed like he really didn't want this to come out. Dude, the guy resigned from Congress, not because he thought he had any shot, by the way, at becoming, why are the
AG,
letters? Yeah, thank you, AG. DA kept sticking in my head, and I'm like, no, where are the right letters? Not that he had any shot, but I think it was truly because he did not want this report to come out.
Yeah, I think that there was an unspoken or maybe soft-spoken agreement of, look, if I just go back to the weeds and stay out of the public life, will you just make this go away? And he got a yes from the right people. And so he resigned, and that was in the middle of him having been promised the nomination for Attorney General from Trump. That announced it publicly. This is all going to be feeling very bad for Mr. Trump because he's like rubber stamped him without looking into this at all, and now this is all coming out, and you're like, oh man, you either didn't care or you didn't do your homework on Matt Gaetz, which both look bad for a president to be.
I mean, look at who his VP pick was, and the dossier on him. I mean, Jesus Christ, it's like, do you do anything? Do you? He doesn't care, but. Well,
no, he surrounds himself with loyalists, and Matt Gaetz, to all of his faults, is a loyalist to the Trump, God or whatever he is.
Right, and when you say loyalist, I think we need to be clear. These people are loyal to Trump because they think Trump will give them things in return, and then the loyalty in this case was, okay, he's going to make me AG, he's going to take care of me as long as I'm good to him. He's going to be really good to me.
So that's an interesting point. Are you meaning to say that, maybe Matt Gaetz has a future as a book writer now, and he'll get to spill all the dirty deets about Daddy Trump?
Well, let's see.
How's he going to make his money now?
Let's go through the rest of this, because I think it would be a bad time as a guy who might be charged with statutory rape among other things here. Might be a bad time to make a move. At least while Trump's still president. But I want to go back and answer one of your questions earlier, which was, how did this happen? How did this report get released? They actually, after they were publicly split down, party lines, they actually held a secret vote earlier.
An anonymous vote of the committee?
Behind closed doors secret vote, where Republicans joined Democrats and were like, yeah, let's release the report.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it took
cowards, the absolute cowardice involved in that.
Yeah, so I don't know if we actually know which Republicans are. I haven't really gone into that, but I know that that's what happened.
Can I, just as an aside here, talk about how ridiculous that is? We have you and I talk about it on the podcast a lot, but how the Senate doesn't work for us anymore.
No.
Like they refuse to vote on things that are common sense because it will upset their voters. Is this anonymous voting technique like a way that they could get around that and pass legislation? They could all have plausible deniability of, I didn't vote to ban assault weapons. I didn't do that. I'm for assault weapons. And then it just happens.
I mean, it's wild because that's all it is, right? It's when it's public, it's just grandstanding. It's just
optics.
Yeah.
And they never commit to anything,
right.
Which is why I think which is why I'm always calling for the end of the filibuster, because I demand to hear you vote on it. I want to hear you say, I vote against banning assault weapons from people when, they end up in the electric chair anyway.
Right.
So
yeah, I want to hear you. I want to hear the Republicans say that they're going to take away Social Security. That's why these things don't even get to a vote. Which is the part of the thing, when you listen to top Democrats who are, I would say, more on the side of the working class, they are pissed that they can't get Dem leadership to bring things to a vote, because they want you to see who would say no. Like, oh, it would never pass. We don't care. Like, then show us why it won't pass, right?
Yeah, there's a little bit of and I think this is older politics at play, but there's this feeling of like, you only get, one or two shots at a vote on things, where you're like, if we put an assault weapon ban to the floor to vote and it fails, we can't do it again. Now, there's no rule for that. It makes no sense. That's just gibberish. But I think that there's, the older, the Pelosi's and those sorts of folks, I think that they have that feeling of, this is the way it was and we can't do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you're right in the sense that they use those kind of like unwritten rules as ways to just hand wave.
I think they're completely using it as an excuse to just get the more vocal people to shut up.
Yeah. And
they like it when there's nothing to vote on, because they can keep, as we said before, they can keep campaigning on it. Oh, I'll bring an assault weapons ban to the floor and vote on it, blah blah. As long as they don't do it, they can keep campaigning on that thing.
I mean, let me ask you this. I know we're getting way off topic here. We have a lot to say about alleged rapist Matt Gaetz. But while we're on the subject here, what are the Democrats running on in like 2026 and 2028? You can't run on ending the death penalty. You can't run on codifying Roe. You can't. I
bet you they do.
Well, yeah, that's ridiculous, right? And you running on legalizing marijuana. I mean, what the hell are they? Healthcare for all, or expanded access, whatever the corporate Dems want to call it. Access to healthcare. What are you running on now? How does anyone believe anything that they say anymore?
I don't know anything about like how are we going to believe them, but like what are the stances that they'll run on, the platforms they'll use, like that. That doesn't change. That playbook has been the same for the last 30 years. It's going to be, I'm going to codify, well, at the presidential level, we'll codify Roe v. Wade. I guess it actually the Senate, the House too, because that's the only way you can do that is through the chambers.
Right. I'm really talking like midterms, right? Like what is
midterms,
filling the Democratic fundraising coffers? Like what's the email that the average voter is going to get and where it says, "Hey Mike, we need your support now to ... What's going to get you to take money out of your pocket and
Oh no, they would have to actually say things to get me to take money out of my pocket. I'll say in this last cycle, at the presidential level, I was getting a lot of emails, a lot of text messages, and the like that were basically of the ilk. You need to fundraise so that we can defeat Republican opponent. Like that's the only thing they ran on is that we need to defeat Ted Cruz, we need to defeat Marco Rubio, we need to defeat, and nobody talked about platform and the fundraising in any way.
See, this is my worry is that I remember at least for the first 20 years that I was into politics is that the Republicans were doing that. They were just the opposition party. They were saying the Dems are socialists, scary, blah blah blah, communists. We got to stop them. Right, with no policy agenda of their own. Like you don't even know what Republicans stood for. Like really 20 years ago. Smaller budget, like individual rights, all that nonsense or whatever. But like they didn't have like this big fundraising agenda that they put forth to their constituents, right? And I felt like Dems had that. They had like, okay, abortion rights. We have legalizing marijuana. We have criminal justice reform. We have these things that I feel like now it's just slipping away and they're becoming the pure opposition party of just like, we just have to oppose the Republicans.
Frankly, if they would just, do that successfully, I would call it a win.
Oppose Republicans successfully?
Yeah.
Instead of becoming them?
Find anything, and I don't care if you literally are, I'm in district whatever and I'm running against this Republican who is terrible, just vote for me please instead of him. And if that's the best that they can do, but they actually win with that messaging, run it. I'm fine. But man, I'm with you. They don't have any other messaging. It's going to be the same old. It's going to be, this is, grandma's, let's codify Roe v. Wade. Let's legalize marijuana. Let's abolish the federal death penalty. And it's all the same things,
Yeah. Well, okay.
Give me my Christmas present.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Let's go back to opening the Christmas present. So, you and I have both dug through this. I mean, I'm not surprised by any of this, but to see it written down, also what I don't understand is I don't understand why this man isn't in jail.
We'll get to that.
Okay. All right.
We'll get to that.
So let's talk about what's inside. Sexual relations with a 17-year-old girl. Regular payments for sexual encounters. Which, by the way, protects sex workers, make prostitution legal, all that stuff. I don't care. But it's currently illegal in Florida, right? And especially when it's coming from a person of power, there's dynamics there. Illegal drug use between 2017 and 2019. I mean, Jesus Christ. This is supposed to be the party that's against porn, against prostitution, against drug use, against pedophiles. Here we are. And then there's what I would call like the minor stuff, which is still on its face. 15 years ago, you'd have to resign from Congress, which is, accepting ridiculous gifts that exceed the limits of the House, misuse of your official position, obstruction of the committee's investigation. And there was a lot in here.
Yeah.
So what's your take on all this?
Oh man, it's all great. It's gonna be really good. I love it so much, and it's frankly a sort of weird time because we're post-election. We're not into the next cycle's swing yet, and so this is going to be something that I think the news has to run with. I don't think that they have any alternatives outside of like, for headline grabbers. I mean, this is just too big.
Okay.
It's going to bury Gaetz. It's going to be hilarious.
So I just this question just popped into my head because holy crap, I hadn't even thought about this. All right.
Okay.
The reason why Gaetz wasn't going to take his seat in the next Congress was because he was afraid of this report dropping.
Right.
This report has dropped.
Yep.
He has still won his election.
He does. He's technically an incoming member of the House of Representatives.
Does he take his seat?
He could. He could just be a complete liar and take his seat.
I mean, because now
hilarious.
Now the report's out. He could take his seat and say, "Well, I want to fix what's going on, with the House, with this, with the committees, etc." I haven't seen anything to say otherwise. I'm sure Gaetz is very busy today, doing damage control as well as he was in the morning trying to stop this report from being released.
Right. Now that it's out, though,
yeah,
I mean it is. The House Ethics Committee officially released it publicly. If I'm Joe Biden,
if you're Joe Biden,
okay, am I not instructing my good friend Mr. Garland to open a criminal case against this guy?
Well, I mean,
I can't instruct him, but am I not like?
First of all, why can't
subtly?
you? Why can't you? Because there's some separation between the president and the judiciary. Give me a
okay,
break.
Fine. Let's say I have him over to dinner, and I suggest politely maybe he should look into this Gaetz guy. There is this report from the House Ethics Committee. Maybe you should take a look at him.
Right. So
does it matter? Does it matter at all? Like, is Trump going to come in and just pardon him?
Yeah, without a doubt. I think. I mean, he's
going to come in with his bluster and be like, "This was a witch hunt from the get-go, and I pardon him of all the things he didn't do."
Yeah, he's such a Trump loyalist, as you said before. I mean, undoubtedly. And you know what? None of his supporters will even bat an eye. I mean, we're talking about somebody who's having sexual relations with an underage woman, and he'll get a pardon, and all of his Christian followers who rah pedophile rah they'll applaud this. Nothing makes sense anymore. Or counter to that, everything makes sense now. People are finally showing who they really are. There's no more. It's like mask off time for everybody, in my opinion.
So, okay, let's go down just to this route. Let's say he's pardoned.
Okay.
And he accepts his seat in the, what is it, 200 whatever Congress?
Yeah, to some number, sure.
Yeah, some number.
Some number.
Then you caucus enough of the sitting House members, because there's not a lot. There are a lot of Republicans, but not all of them outside of like 15-ish are MAGA enthusiasts, like super MAGA. What if you get 2/3 of them to agree to expel him from Congress?
I mean, if Trump pardons him, there's no way you'll do that.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
because I don't know. I actually don't know. Because pardons take time. You can't just. It's not as simple as a flick of the pen, as many say. I think there's a process involved that you have to go through. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he can just get on Twitter and be like, "I pardon Matt Gaetz," and then that's good enough. But it would be funny, because about half the House is Democrat, and you only need the half of the other half.
Yeah,
that's too much. That's 75%. Sorry,
it's not happening. It would be the 119th, by the way. It's
119th.
Yeah, that's, I mean that makes sense. We became a thing in like the 1770. What's the year they like to talk? They put on the shirts and stuff. 1776, right?
Yeah.
And then you got every 2 years is a new Congress, right? So I don't know.
So the other thing that's interesting is that you can't even really launch a criminal investigation into him because of that hanging threat of Trump pardoning him, right?
Who's going to be like,
Well,
let's say,
that's
like, federal charges make no sense. You can't start a federal case against him now because he's just going to get pardoned.
no,
Like,
yeah, that's exactly why Jack Smith was like, all right, packing up and leaving town. There's nothing more to do. What am I gonna fucking do? Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I agree. That's why when you said Biden should instruct Garland, or no. I mean, come on. First of all, arguably for a lot of us outsiders who don't maybe we don't really understand the inner workings of the judicial branch, but why we all thought Garland didn't do enough. I mean, we were all like, get Garland out of here. I mean, there shouldn't have been a reason why Trump was allowed to run for president in the first place. Never mind, like they're all just stuck their tail between their legs now. It's over. It's Christmas time. They got stuff to do. They got family to be with. They got fruit pie to eat or whatever. I mean, come on.
Is there a play here where you instruct Garland to publicly request the Florida Attorney General to prosecute the case at a state level? Because all of these crimes were committed in action of the state of Florida. Now, admittedly, the Florida AG is basically another Matt Gaetz, so he's probably not going to be keen on prosecuting one of his buddies, but I don't know. Can you leverage anything there?
I'm gonna say, I'm trying to look up his name.
I feel like the answer is probably no.
I'm sorry to do this to you. Wait, what's his name? Well, anyway, I feel like this is as good as the Christmas gift is gonna get for you.
Yeah.
This is it. If anything, this is actually great for Gaetz. He's gonna go on like a victory tour. He's already tweeting from his X, the Nazi app, or the Everything app. I keep forgetting the name of it. That was an honest mistake. That one of the first things he tweeted was the House Ethics Committee finds insufficient evidence for Matt Gaetz sex trafficking, sex trafficking nonsense. So he's like tweeting out all of these stories like, oh, see, I told you I wasn't sex trafficking. Like, when come on,
when the report's right here and we're looking at it. Interesting, very interesting.
So yeah, I think Christmas ends here for you.
Darn. I don't think it ends here. I mean, I think that there's a lot. He's going to get railroaded on the news, for one.
Oh, well,
as the report.
I mean, here's what happens. If you're in the Republican camp and you shoot two people, two people who shouldn't have been shot, or you're in a subway and you chokehold a guy to death, who, I don't know, skipped the line or jumped the turnstile or whatever. What happens is you get to come out at the next RNC to wrestling music, like you're at WrestleMania. So if anything, Gaetz is just going to be a bigger celebrity after this.
I don't think so.
I mean, what do you think's going to happen?
So here's, again, you're not going to be satisfied with this explanation if you didn't like my pro-life explanation. But in all of those cases, they had, at the very least, some, even if it doesn't make sense to us, a plausible position of this person was trying to do good and they were being prosecuted for it. Okay. The subway guy who, chokehold that guy to death, like, they thought, like, the Republican voter, your typical Republican voter, would think he was trying to keep people on the subway safe. So why would I convict him of murder? Like, it's just very topical level, not digging into it any further than that, right? And they use that on a lot of ways, but I don't think you can make that same case for Gaetz.
Witch hunt.
But they found a bunch of evidence.
Witch hunt.
No, I know, you're right.
It's just a witch hunt. The Dems are trying to take away, they're trying to take down Trump's, loyalists, his the people that are trying to make America great again. They're trying to tear Trump down.
Why would it draw your name from AG? If none of it matters and it's all a witch hunt, why withdraw your name at all? Why not just do the AG?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think there were legitimate Republican senators who were not going to who had
You don't
said
think he couldn't whip him to the vote?
I think that there's two factors going on here. I think one,
Right.
yeah, Matt Gaetz to the Republican base, to the constituents, he's fine. Nothing's wrong there. But what Matt Gaetz
Like,
did,
he's Florida man.
he's a Florida, it's fine. But what Matt Gaetz did internally to Republicans, like especially in the House during the House Speaker, elections, and how he doesn't play politics correctly. Yeah,
he's just generally a pain to everyone who doesn't do exactly what he wants.
Exactly. And so I truly think that that was just Republican senators don't want to.
But do you think that stigma won't, like that smell won't leave him as he goes somewhere else beyond this?
It's a good question, because you always see after something like this, like there's no doubt he's going to be a lobbyist or whatever.
Right.
Maybe he'll work at OAN or something. I don't know.
Right.
So,
yeah. He'll be a new Fox broadcaster or something.
Yeah. So I don't think that he'll have. I think as long as he doesn't have a direct influence on the legislative body, like in the House or in the Senate or as an AG or whatever, I think everyone will be fine with him. And that's what you're going to get. This guy's not going anywhere.
You're right. That is deeply disappointing to me.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to take the.
It's just sort of frustrating because, like I said, as a kid, you're bound by this rules and framework that keeps everything working, and then you become an adult, particularly if you became an adult when we did, and you start seeing these things happen where laws don't matter, like they don't apply to any of the elected officials. They just don't care. And before it felt very like tongue-in-cheek that was true, but maybe not necessarily in practice. Like maybe you get away with a little bit of insider trading, maybe you do some, like, blur the lines a little bit. But as we got President Rapist here, and we got
Congressman Rapist and Senator Rapist, I mean,
it's like it doesn't apply to
Supreme Court rapists,
when a person asks, like when I'm legitimately asking you, is there a way to prosecute this man for the crimes he committed?
No.
Based on the evidence that have been gathered, the answer is no, not really.
No.
That's just so disturbing to me.
I wish I had something to say. I mean, I don't know what to say here. We sometimes we get into these episodes where we go down that rabbit hole, and I'm just like, God damn it. If we weren't recording, I would go take a shower and I just put my head against the wall. Yeah.
No, I know. And I mean, so we haven't actually like iterated all of the various crimes that he was. I guess he's accused of as a part of this ethics probe, like statutory rape of a minor.
Right.
Is one that you mentioned. Like I don't understand how you're not in jail for that. But I mean, prostitution just widely and rampantly throughout his years, not just as a congressman, but just apparently his entire time as an adult, he's just been into drugs and hookers for forever.
Yeah, I mean, spent the report details over $25,000 in cash withdrawals and electronic payments linked to parties involving drugs and sexual activities. I mean, come on.
Does the report detail at all about his adopted son or whatever? Like, is he involved in any way? I hope this man is innocent as the day he was born.
I don't recall.
So was his name Nestor? Is that
Nestor? Right? Yeah, I don't think so.
I want it to be the weirdest story ever, where Matt Gaetz is like this like sex addict, drug addict guy, and he's just like decided to, in a drug induced haze, adopt this kid, and and then he's just doing it because he's like, I don't know what else to do. I gotta take care of this kid.
The report just really focuses on like the allegations, but it doesn't contain any mention of Nestor in this at all.
Innocent as a baby lamb. I love it.
But I mean, I thought I thought I remembered him being involved in the payment somehow.
Yeah, it felt like people were being paid by Nestor on Gates's behalf, and everybody
Yeah.
started scratching their chins like, "What? Why wouldn't you just pay this person directly?" And then when they found it, they're like, "Oh, well, because he's paying for sex."
Right. Right.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Prostitution's illegal in Florida, right?
Yes, I think it's
And
illegal pretty much everywhere, but
but
actually,
Nevada.
I thought it was just
Yeah.
Nevada, but I feel like there's one other state that I'm missing.
I
If
want
you're
it to
with
be a
me,
wild card one. It would be like in Rhode Island. You can...
I feel like it was Maine or something. I'm looking it up right
Okay.
now. Let's find out. For our listeners, if you're hanging on this, okay, sorry. Let me re-enter my query here. Okay, Nevada. I think that's it. Other than there's countries where it's legal.
Yeah.
Nevada, it's legal in some rural counties. Denmark, Greece, and Switzerland is legal with some restrictions. Austria, Colombia, Ecuador, and Venezuela, it's completely legal. Mexico, it's legal. 13 out of the 31 states allowing it. Australia varies, but it's legal. Netherlands, Germany. Hey, I think interesting. It's legal in a lot of places, but it seems like Nevada is the only place in the U.S. where it's legal.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. And it's a violation by both parties, as I recall. So they were saying prostitution is illegal, so it's illegal to prostitute yourself and to also, solicit prostitution. So
Right.
there's no some weird, loophole where Matt Gaetz wasn't breaking a crime or anything like that.
Yeah, and then like I kind of alluded to earlier, it's even worse that he at I don't know, they started in 2017, which is he was a member of the House in 2017, right? Like how long has he been a member of the House? How long have I had to listen to him? I've known about him for too long.
Yeah, 17 sounds right.
Yeah,
it would have come out
2017. He started in 2017, and that's apparently when he was in the Florida House of Representatives from 2010 to 2016.
That's what I recall.
Yeah, so in the first district in Florida since 2017, and that's when, I mean, how can that not be an abuse of your powers? I mean, clearly, yeah, maybe he's paying these girls for sex, but hey, maybe he's getting that discount, or maybe it's something they wouldn't have done if they didn't feel coerced. Maybe maybe there's he's throwing his power around. But nonetheless, like you're right. How can this guy just how can this just be allowed? He just gets to go home tonight. Where if this were you or me or anybody else, I mean, say goodbye. You're gone.
Yeah, and there's especially in the private sector, but even the public sector too, there's a lot of stigma associated with hiring prostitutes. That's a social signal to people that you are not really worthy of being around. I don't know. It's very I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch the Gaetz thing. I gotta know where it goes because it's just too crazy. Maybe that going back to the thing we said before, but like, what if Dems start rallying around the criminal justice reform or something as part of their platform, being like, why does this guy get to break all these laws and suffer no consequences? Maybe that's a platform to explore. It certainly should be for the Democratic nod for the presidency moving forward. Like, why did we get the criminal president? Why wasn't he disallowed from being the president, having been found guilty of all these crimes?
Guilty witch hunt.
He's found guilty whether it's a witch hunt or not.
No, made up charges. Witch hunt.
Still guilty. Even if they were made up, he was found guilty by a jury.
Listen, you guys on the left, this is just a witch hunt. Trump is trying to drain the swamp. This is why Trump picked.
He tried to make this guy his AG.
Listen, this is why Trump just picked Callista Gingrich, Newt Gingrich's wife, to be ambassador to Switzerland because he is draining the swamp. Don't you see what he's?
Gingrich is out of Washington. That makes sense. That's a good start.
Don't you understand? He's draining the swamp.
Send Newt somewhere.
preferably hostile. Send it to North Korea. Set up an ambassadorship there. That'd be great. I'd watch that on TV. Newt Gingrich is the diplomat in North Korea.
He's inside, like he doesn't. Yeah, he's inside. Okay, all right. I'm seeing this. I'd pay for that.
Yeah,
I'd pay a little something for that. I'm sorry. I got a little beat up here with all this Gingrich stuff.
Gingrich stuff.
Gingrich stuff. Matt Gaetz. Same. The G. This Matt Gaetz stuff.
Yeah, Matt Gaetz.
I'm just upset. I'm upset about it.
At the very least, right now, it looks positive. There are a lot of weird branches that the timeline could take. I think right now he's just going to sort of sulk away until his book sells and then he gets on Fox News. But I agree. I don't think any actual criminal complaints will be made against him.
Yeah, no, I
think the releasing of this probe document is literally just a hey, go away document. It's just you get out of Congress, don't come back.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm really interested to see if he goes back on his word, because he has said several times
he takes his seat
that he won't.
Oh my God.
I mean, jeez.
I think that there's enough Republicans in Congress who would be willing to vote to expel him. I would bet. They only need a 2/3 vote, but they also need the speaker to bring it to a vote, which you maybe don't get, even if you have the 2/3 majority.
Okay. I think this is a good play. I don't have anything else today. I was really excited to talk about the Matt Gaetz thing. I
like the Matt Gaetz story.
I went the wrong way with it personally, and I'm feeling kind of down because I know I feel like everything's going to be fine for him. He's going to have a
cockroach. He'll outlive us all.
Right. Exactly. Okay. People are comparing Luigi to Ted Bundy. I'm not looking at that. I'm not looking at that. Stop talking to me. Anything else you want to talk about?
No.
Yeah.
Unless you want to talk about Ted Bundy, I can talk about Ted Bundy.
I don't know. I don't. But maybe this could be a 2-podcast week. We'll see. Maybe there's we'll see if this Matt Gaetz story goes anywhere. We'll see if there's anything else on Luigi. And we'll see what else breaks. I mean, we are getting really close to Inauguration Day. Hopefully Biden, whatever they're pumping into him, he keeps up with, I think the commuting of those sentences was a great start. It's not by any means fulfilling the promises of his administration, but hopefully there's more things. I don't know what's next. I'd like him to do more before he rides off into the sunset.
Yeah, I don't know what he could do, honestly, but it would be an interesting thought experiment. Maybe, like you said, we'll come back later in the week. If Santa brings us coal, we'll spend some time thinking about these things and come up with another podcast.
Yeah. I'm definitely getting coal, so I'll be ready maybe a Thursday or Friday or something, and
keep me warm while I'm writing.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us today. Let us know in the comments if you feel like this Matt Gaetz, the releasing of the House Ethics Report. Let us know if you think this is going to go differently than what I think are what we came to a consensus on, which is at the end of the day, this isn't going to do anything.
Yeah. What's a good campaign slogan that would be like, why do we obey the laws if they don't apply to them? That sort of thing. Like, we want to get chance for the next.
Well, I mean, it's laws for me and not for thee, right? Like that.
Yeah. That's a good one. Can anybody beat that? Put it in the comments.
Yeah, there you go. All right, subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Yes, that thing. What he said, like and subscribe. It's. I don't know where they put the subscribe button. It's just down, right? It's that way. So hit that for us, and we'll catch you all next time.